Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I wanted to share a couple quick tips with you on waterfall hikes and things that you should consider before you head out to the waterfall, and some gear maybe you should consider taking with you. The first thing I think that's worth mentioning is just a little bit of research. We're not talking about studying before going on some type of expedition, but it's worthwhile getting a little bit of information before you go. Nowadays, with the internet, GPS coordinates, there's a good chance many people have been to a waterfall before you. So a good tip, and this is probably obvious, but there's many Facebook groups out there with tons of information from hiking trails, the proper side of the river to approach from, whether that's upstream, downstream, north, east, south, west. There's going to be lots of information in regards to private property or places that you shouldn't park, or different roadways, access points that are going to be helpful, and any hazards that could be, whether that's poison ivy, bear sightings, and any other potential hazardous things that you should take note of, like bridges that are out or washed out roads, cliffs. There's lots of reasons for you to check out all the information you can online. It's out there at your disposal. All you have to do is a little bit of research, and that might be as simple as joining a Facebook group. I find people are more than willing to help and encourage you to get out and hike to these spots. So there's a good chance you'll find pictures, maybe vlogs, or just it's really nice write-ups online. Lots of helpful tips, and if it's a waterfall that's not really known, if it's not really plotted on most maps, on Google Maps or Big Map or whatever, then you might have to go a little bit further to do some research, but it will absolutely pay off. And what I mean, satellite imagery will give you a little bit of a picture sometimes. You can kind of tell from the satellite imagery, how thick the bush is, like if it's been clear cut in the last little while, if there's any logging roads to it. And sometimes you can even see some cliffs. You can kind of get an idea of what you'd be getting yourself into. But what I recommend doing is just getting used to looking at topographical maps. That's those maps that have the kind of contour lines, those little lines that just kind of show you the closer they get together, the steeper the topography is. So you kind of get an idea by looking at them. The crazier they look, the more caution you need to take. And it can kind of give you an idea too, if you should head in from one side or the other, upstream, downstream. You might be looking at saving yourself a lot of trouble and making your hike a lot safer, because if you don't, you might take an approach that leads you to the edge of a cliff and you can't go any further, or it might be the most dangerous possible way you can take, where you could have looked at a topographical map and figured out you could head from a completely different direction and get there a lot safer with a better angle of the waterfall. So it's just, taking a little bit of time, well worth your while. Maybe you look up how to read a topographical map. They're not that complicated. Moving on to the next thing, it's going to be gear, and I'm not going to get into overall hiking gear. There's many other vlogs out there that will give you better information on general hiking gear. I'm going to stick to waterfall hikes, and these are hikes that are day hikes that are usually a kilometer or so, not too far from highways or logging roads. So you can kind of get away with some things that you might not want to do if you're hiking on like a 16-kilometer out and back hike or something. This is going to be like a kilometer, half a kilometer, or like half a mile or something like that. In these cases, and this is going to be a special case, so given if your plan is to get a really good angles of a waterfall, the waterfall is your main focus, you want to get some nice photography of it, some long exposure photography of it. If you can hike comfortably, rubber boots are well worth the little bit of less comfort to get down to the waterfall, because I don't know how many times I've been down a waterfall. I've had to cross the river several times, and it would have been impossible with regular footwear, or you've been soaked and cold and miserable the whole way. Granted, if the time of year is suitable, or you live in a climate that you can get away with it, maybe you can roll your pants up, wear shorts, take your boots off and socks off, and get across the river in your bare feet. You may also be able to get away with getting some type of water shoes, but it's simple enough if you can handle hiking in rubber boots. They're not the greatest thing. Personally, I get away with hiking in rubber boots almost every hike, and I'm always happy I have them. One last thing I want to add for the hiking gear is a rope. Having a good rope is going to come in handy. It's going to be something you're glad you packed. It doesn't really take up that much room, and it's just going to be such a benefit because there's going to be a time when you get a little bit more advanced in your waterfall hikes. You get a little bit more, I don't want to say risky because you should never be too risky, but you get a little bit more bold in the places that you're willing to hike to. There's going to come a time, especially if it's not a mapped out place and you're going off a topographical map or just some very vague instructions, you're going to come to a point where a rope may make or break whether you actually get to hike to the waterfall or not. I've been in this situation before. I've never put myself in any danger hiking alone because I do let somebody know where I'm hiking, when, so they know. Plus, I won't allow myself to hike anywhere where I'm going to get hurt if something goes wrong. But you're looking at places where there's lots of rotten logs that could give way, moss. You might lose your footing and go to grab for some roots that are sticking out in a tree, and you end up pulling the whole tree out. I've done it before. It hasn't been in a dangerous situation, but you could end up in a dangerous situation. And if you end up tying a rope off at the first, you're just gonna have that security. You're gonna take the time to find a good solid tree to tie the rope off to, and then you're only relying on the rope to get to the bottom of a ravine. And then when you come back out, you're gonna be, saving yourself a lot of energy. You're gonna be saving your wind because even a slight ravine can be tricky getting out. It can be a lot less steep looking going in, an easy trek going in. On the way out, it's actually way longer, way steeper, slippery. Lots of things can come up when you're trying to hike out of a ravine. You're tired, you've already done the hike, you just want to get out of there, and you got your rope tied off, and it's going to make your life so much easier. So get yourself a rope. Last thing I want to say is, and this is a little bit kind of different, it's if you're hiking in the summer and you are the type of person that likes to swim, you're out on a muggy hot day, it's nice to cool off at a waterfall. Most of them, because of the plunge a waterfall has, will have a nice beautiful swimming spot, a good way to get cooled off. And I think that's great. I like to swim myself at some of the waterfalls I go to, but I can't stress this enough. Waterfalls create undertows, and if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of a current that happens at the bottom of a waterfall, and they can actually pull you in and make it so you can't fight them. They're so strong, especially after you've already been hiking for an hour and your energy levels are a little bit low. You might struggle against an undertow to get out of there. Or if you hike there with some kids, they get caught up in an undertow, and then an adult has to go in and try to help them, and you're now fighting for two people to get out. It's just, if it's a straight plunge waterfall, not like a cascading slider style waterfall, but a straight plunge waterfall, they can be dangerous. Respect them, understand this can happen, and don't swim too close to the waterfall. Although you might get some great pictures, or it might be kind of fun to get up in the waterfall, see if there's a little bit of a cave or something. It can be dangerous. That's it, guys. That's all I want. I just want you to get the most out of your day, be the safest you can be, and enjoy your time. Thanks for sticking through to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.